Number 1. The Stalker. This story was told by my female friend who used to work at Subway about a year ago. There was this guy who was 35 to 40 years old who would come in every single day for lunch. He was fascinated by her. He would sit down after she rang him up and watch her from his table for 2 hours nonstop, just staring while she helped other customers. This went on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask her for her number and ask her random questions. One day, she was alone in the store because her manager had to run to the bank. They were really slow that day, so she was just in the back room messing around on her phone. All of a sudden, she heard the door chime, looked up, but no one was there. Then she saw the man walk past the front door really quickly, like he was in a hurry. Then all of a sudden, the store phone rings. She picks up the phone normally, saying, "Thanks for calling Subway, how can I help you?" And then he says, "This is the girl with the nice ears, right?" Yes, she says. "Are you alone in the back room right now?" he says. "Are you working by yourself?" At this point, she really gets creeped out and knew it was him. She hung up and texted her manager so he would come back. He texted back a little while later and said that he was on his way. A couple minutes later, the man called again, this time asking her very weird questions, like what she would do with him in a room with the door locked, if she had a boyfriend, and why she was playing hard to get. She decides to just hang up. Finally, her manager gets back and she tells him everything. Things seem to settle down until the lunch rush. He calls again. This time, her manager answers. He says, "Why are you calling?" And to this day, her manager never told her what he said, but the look on his face made her spine shiver. He told him if he ever called back again, he would call the police. We thought that was the end of it, but alas, we were wrong. 1 week later, she clocks out and gets ready to walk to her parked car in the front, but when she looks outside, she sees him standing by her car and looking inside of it. She remembers she left the back door unlocked. Her and her manager watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in her back seat. Her manager quickly locks the front door of the store and calls the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of the car. Of course, he was arrested. On him was a butcher knife, a rope, and a rag with chloroform on it. Good thing she looked up when she did. Number 2. The Loft. When I was much younger, living in a small town outside of Cincinnati, I spent most of my days splitting time between the Catholic school I went to and my grandparents' 2-story house on top of the hill. This is by no means a secluded area, but before they built the new house, it was all farmland that used to house several animals and a couple giant looming barns. I spent a lot of time in those barns before turkey buzzards created a home in its rafters. I used to check for noises in the barns before entering so I wouldn't be scooped up by a buzzard and taken away. One morning, when school was called off for an in-service day, I walked out to the barn and listened for the telltale whisper of wings thrashing against old hay to warn me of the invisible terrors. But nothing happened. I walked into the barn happy to be rid of the terrible beast for the moment, when I heard a rustle from above. I looked up but saw nothing. I just assumed it was a groundhog that scurried through the barn. I sat up on top of the old tractor and started to read when I heard it again, plus the sound of something dragging on wood. I always got creeped out pretty easily, so I hopped right out of there. That evening, I overheard my grandma talking to my grandpa about some crazy guy who had killed his girlfriend in the house next to my sister's home, less than a mile down the street. Trying to think nothing of how terrifying that was, I managed to create a fine landscape of Legos before heading to bed. The next day, when I came home from school, my grandma had a wild story about how the police had come to check all the yards for this psycho and had surrounded the barn believing he was inside. When they finally entered, he was not there, but they did find bloody clothes, a dish towel soaked in blood, and other various items. The police thought he had spent at least one night there by the amount of blood present. Needless to say, I shit my pants, but didn't tell my grandma about my experience because I wasn't supposed to be in the barn without telling her. They eventually found the man and the gun he used in the thistle bushes behind the barn. It was a place so dense I had never entered. I still wonder till this day what would have happened to me if I would have stayed in the barn a little longer. Number 3. Idaho Night. My grandparents' house is in Idaho, where until about a year ago didn't really have any neighbors. It's in an older house, about 100 years old, and has 3 bedrooms. Their kitchen and living room is connected, and the room I stayed in was off the living room. Also, the back door is in the kitchen. During the summers, I would help out and work on their farm, and would stay the night because it was a long trip back home. They were really into poker, so they would go down to Las Vegas for a week or two every single month, leaving me home alone to do the chores. I usually put them off until the evening. One night, it was about half an hour until sunset, so I rushed through feeding the animals and moving the irrigation pipes. I needed to go and grab something from the nearby chicken house. It was unusually dark that night, so I was kind of creeped out. I rushed, got the thing, and bolted out of there. I went inside and locked the doors and windows and got into bed. It was probably around midnight when I was awoken by the sound of someone trying to open the back door. I got scared, so I grabbed my knife and called the police. To my dread, there wasn't an officer anywhere in the area, and it would have been about 15 to 20 minutes. Luckily though, the person stopped trying to open the back door, but deep down, I knew he was still there. So I went to the window to see if I could see him through the blinds. I made a small crack between the 2 blinds. There, right where I parted the blinds, were a pair of eyes, bloodshot white eyes staring right at me. I jumped back, gripped my knife tightly, and yelled, "I've got the police and I have a gun," which was a lie, but I thought maybe it would scare him off. I heard him walk to the door again, but this time he threw his body against it and broke the door. I ran and slammed my door shut. I put a wooden chest to lock my bedroom door in hopes it would buy me some time. The chest weighed a decent amount, and with me pushing it against the door, figured the man couldn't get in. I got desperate and yelled, "If you don't leave me now, I'll shoot you." What he said next will stay with me until the day I die. In a deep, deep voice, he said, "But if you killed me, how would I get your skin?" I must have been the luckiest person in the world, because that very same moment the police arrived. Somehow though, he managed to escape. They found evidence that he had been staying in the chicken house for the past couple of days. They found some rope and a small knife. I don't want to know what would have happened if he had gotten in, but to the creep outside my window, please never come back. Thanks guys, please share, comment, and subscribe for more videos. And remember, never forget to lock your doors.